What is up, everybody? STARSKREAM here, and today we are going to be knocking out something that I've been meaning to knock out for a little while here. I know it's been a little bit since I've been able to record, but my life has been super busy. I've been working till like 9 or 10 every single night, and you know, it's been hard to make stream, much less make videos. So I am going to try and make up for it by knocking out essentially 2 videos in one. Today's video, we are going to be going over Craw's epic and rework, and we're going to be going over Sybil's epic as well. Additionally, I feel I should mention that there is currently a band practicing in my house. Yes, there's a freaking band practicing a couple doors down from me. So if you hear any background noise, that's why. I've tried to tune my mic so that it picks up as little as humanly possible, but I do think you might hear either some drums or some screaming at some point. So if you do, that's why, and I promise it won't happen again. But I refuse to wait any longer to record this video, so screw it, we're gonna do it. Love purchasing epics, so let's just get right into it. Both of the epics that we are going to be going over today are for purchase only. And as you guys know, I am not a huge fan of purchasing epics when they come out for heroes that I don't know that I'm going to be using or not. I purchased the Alrakis one because I know that I use him a lot, but for Craw, I haven't used him since like 1973. And for Sybil, I know a lot of people like to use him, but I don't really use him that much. So I was like, I'm not sure if I'm going to spend the money to get those or not. But luckily there are people that are ballers and get pretty much any epic that comes out, and one of those people is Firing, and Firing has been nice enough to allow me to use his account as he has in the past. So definitely show him some love, go send him a friend request and use his hero in dungeons. So we are going to start out with Craw, just because Craw's info is up right here, and you know, it's just easier that way. Now Craw did get an epic obviously, but aside from that, he also got a few other changes. First of all, right at the top there, you'll notice that he is now legendary instead of gold. Now that doesn't really like mean a whole lot per se, except that now his tokens are a little bit harder to get, which is unfortunate. And dungeon boss fight clearly thinks that he is deserving of legendary status, which in my opinion remains to be seen. Some of his abilities look really cool, but I don't know that it's going to affect him enough to actually warrant the legendary status, but we're going to get into that in a second here. Next, let's go down. Future Sight now adds Foresight to all allies and causes allies to attack a random enemy, so that's just an upgrade to one of his special abilities. Craw now gets the magical trait, which is a passive trait that's just for himself, so he takes less damage from magic attacks, and is at his base ascension, which I believe means his first ascension. Craw's Soul Ledger trait now also increases his defense by 30% per stack, which is good because he is pretty squishy, and you know, anything to keep him alive will definitely help. Shard of Darkness now is different at each ascension and gives 1 stack of Foresight at the start of battle. At his base ascension, 2 stacks after being ascended once, and 3 stacks after being ascended twice. Now, this is probably, in my opinion, probably the best thing he got, just from my brief look at what the abilities are. Basically, if you have him fully ascended, he's now gonna give your whole team 3 stacks of Foresight at the beginning of a match, which is huge, and actually makes him, it gives you a viable reason to use him as opposed to just using Foresight runes. You will remember in like a lot of my streams and some of my past videos, I've mentioned that like Craw was completely useless at this point because the Foresight runes are way better than needing to take up a hero slot just to give your team Foresight. You can just throw 1 Foresight rune on your hero, and that does what Craw was doing without needing to use him because his abilities are a little bit subpar. Now, if you have him on your team, not only does it give Foresight to your entire team, but it gives 3 stacks, which is like super good, and actually, again, like I mentioned, gives you a reason to use him as opposed to just saying, you know, let's throw some Foresight runes on our heroes and just be done with it. So I think that's pretty good. Soul Thresher is his epic weapon, which is a pretty cool name for an epic. I like this whole like tiki vibe here, and I think, like, honestly, I'm pretty sure this came from another hero design that they had, and I don't remember off the top of my head, but there's this hero design that had this like kind of like tribe shaman tiki looking guy, and he had like a mask and stuff, and it looks like this might have come from that, and then they just repurposed it to have like a skull and beak and be for Craw. But that said, I do think it looks pretty cool. Now his epic attack is does 3 times damage, cleanses 1 debuff, and applies Foresight to all allies, which is pretty cool. A counter stacking buff. Oh yeah, we already know that. It's just describing what a foresight is. Got it. Lasts until it prevents next debuff. Okay, cool. So it literally just went into detail on what foresight is. Got it. Epic passive. Epic immortality through death. Allies gain 25% lifesteal, which is huge and actually very, very good. And foresight at the start of each turn. Undead allies gain double of each. So, from what I'm understanding of this, your allies will now have the lifesteal ability, just like you would get from like a vampiric rune or whatever, and foresight at the start of each turn. So every turn they're going to get a stack of foresight, which is like really good, which is kind of like what Serenity does, except like Serenity stops your opponent from being able to get a buff. This stops you from being able to get a debuff, but every single turn, which is like phenomenal if you have his epic. Undead allies gain double of each, so undead allies are going to get 2 stacks of foresight every turn, and they're going to have 50% lifesteal, from what I'm understanding. So it kind of seems like they might be gearing towards bringing back undeads to being actually viable, in not just, you know, as PvE, but in PvP as well, because that seems pretty strong. So if they come out with like one more undead hero that's really good, that could definitely have a huge impact. And I'm not positive. I would think that this would affect Alrakis as well if you have his epic skin, because from what I understand, his epic skin makes him undead. I'm not sure for sure, but I think that's definitely something that's probably going to be looked into and taken advantage of if that is the case, because that's, again, super, super strong. So now let's actually take a look at Craw and his abilities here. He has Soulless Scourge because he is undead. He now got this magical that's new. I mean, it's not new, but it's new for him. He's got Soul Ledger, like we mentioned, absorb souls for use of immortal life, for each soul, increased skill, and defense. So the defense part is new in this. That's the only part that's new. Nevermore, Purge X debuffs, which was there before. Shard of Darkness now starts with 3 stacks of foresight, because obviously in this case he is fully ascended and has the epic. And last but not least, allies gain 25% lifesteal and foresight at the start of each turn. Undead allies gain double of each. So all the stuff we just went over, and that's really phenomenal. That's like, I don't know, that lifesteal and foresight at the beginning of each turn is really good. So I will say that I do think that this is a pretty solid epic and a pretty solid rework in regards to him now getting this upgraded Shard of Darkness. Now, the problem is, and from what I'm seeing from other people that are using him, is that he's still a little bit too squishy. His stats don't allow him to stay alive long enough for him to really have like a huge impact. I'm gonna look and we're gonna look and see if his undead, what's it called? Not undead. Oh, immortality through death. So allies gain lifesteal. So I believe that regardless of whether he's alive or dead, they're still going to get that foresight at the end of each turn. I'm hoping that that still applies. I would assume it does, based on the fact that I do believe that Serenity applies her epic passives regardless of whether she's alive or dead. So I'm assuming that that's going to be the case with Craw as well. And if that is the case, then that's awesome. In terms of stats, he got defense, skill, and max health, which again is fine. It tries to keep him alive a little bit. But yeah, so he's still, the only issue I see with Craw right now is that he is a healer hero that's stats are set up for, that are like, that seem more geared towards attack. I know he has attack moves as his heals, you know what I mean? He's like in between, like he does attacks and damage in order to gain life back and yada yada. The problem is, like, he doesn't stay alive long enough from what I've seen to really be able to get this stuff off, like his future sight and his immortal life, so that it really like has a large impact. So you're basically just hoping that, you know, his passives end up being enough to warrant using him, which, even though these passives are good, if he's not going to stay alive to do much with his abilities, I don't know that they're good enough to warrant bringing him on your team, whether he's alive or dead. What I mean by that, an example of somebody that does warrant it would be Alrakis, for example. Alrakis is really, really good with his abilities, right? But his passive of being able to do damage at the end of each turn is so insanely good that whether he dies or not, or whether or not he stays alive is a better way of saying that, he's worth having on your team. I would have him on my team just to be able to do that massive amount of damage at the end of each turn, because that passive is so good. Whereas with Craw, his passives are good, but I don't think they're that good. Where like if he dies every single round, then I'm gonna be like, well, at least I brought him with me. I don't think they're that good, like how I feel with Alrakis. That said, it's not terrible, and I think in the future, with certain rune builds and possibly if another undead hero comes out, or if they rework some of the other undead heroes to be a little bit better, then Craw might all of a sudden out of nowhere become viable, because he's about this close to being really, really viable. All right, so next we're going to be talking about Sybil and his epic. Now, since his info card isn't still up, I can't read from it, but I do have a screenshot of it, so I'm going to read from that. Sybil Epic Chroma Bow. Attack. Ranged elemental attack on target enemy, impairing the target and applying venom with a chance to deal 3 times damage, shifting to the target's element, cleansing all debuffs, and gaining 20% defense and max health. So it's decent. It's single target. It's going to apply venom. It's going to change him to the element of the opponent, which all that's fine. It's not like amazing. It's not great. He gains some defense. He gains some health. But it's one that, like, if I have no other option, then yeah, it's a good epic attack. But if I have one of his abilities, I'm probably going to always use an ability over using personally. Epic passive, epic double tap. Allies' ranged single target attacks are followed up by a basic attack. Now, that's already pretty good in itself. Sybil is a pretty good hero, so giving him extras just makes him better, right? I don't think his epic is like that great. However, I do think the fact that he got a little bit better and works really even better right now with ranged attacks is like phenomenal. Also, because your allies will follow up with a ranged attack, that means Miko now follows up and will do additional attacks to the point where he's going to be doing like tons of attacks. We're going to take a look at that, but first let's look at his traits. He's fast, shifty, applies venom. He didn't really get a rework, so none of this part is new here. So if you didn't know what his abilities were, here they are for you, right? What's new is his epic double tap. Allies range single target attacks are followed up by a basic attack. So we're going to actually see this in action so that you can see how it works, because explaining it is a little bit difficult, or not difficult, but it's hard to like imagine what we're talking about. So we're going to throw him into a match with Miko, and I'm going to show you just how nuts those follow-up attacks really are. His epic is going to be, I don't know, if I had to rate it out of 10, I'd say his epic is maybe like a 6 out of 10. Makes Miko really, really powerful, but Miko isn't that strong anyways. So yes, it makes him stronger, but that's pretty much the only person right now that this is a little bit broken with, if that makes sense. So it's still good if you use Sybil all the time. This is a great upgrade. But if you're not using Sybil like me, I don't see it being something that I'm like gonna all of a sudden start using Sybil for. Now, I don't have it, so I guess I shouldn't really say that, because I also thought that about Agnon until I started using Agnon's epic, so take that with a grain of salt. But as you can see, his stats here are pretty standard, and Sybil's just a good hero. I always recommend working on him, and his epic's not bad. I don't know that I would recommend purchasing it at this point. But that being said, let's hop in and look at some PvE so that we can see both these epics in action. I couldn't seem to find any very difficult teams, so I just was like, screw it, we'll just go with this one, whatever. So this should at least show off the amount of double taps he's going to be doing here. That was quite a few attacks that he just did. So if your Miko is pimped out and like able to just dish out a ton of damage, then he's going to be like slaughtering people, which is really cool. I'm not sure if Tongue Lash procs it as well. I assume it would, but I'm not really sure. But again, it's single target attack, so like a single target special attack. So like other heroes that proc that all the heroes that also work with Serenity should work in terms of getting like their that haste thing from Serenity should also work with Miko from what I understand. That's the way it seems. So next, let's take a look at Craw. Again, we are rolling in here with a random team. I don't know really Firing's rune setup, so I'm just kind of living on a prayer here and just hoping things kind of work out. As you can see, Craw died almost immediately, which is to be expected. I mean, it's what I expected. Right now, there's like the meta in PvP is just like really high damage output fast heroes, kind of like when Rayla was meta. And like it was all you saw was like super strong fast attack teams. That kind of went away a little bit for like a tiny little bit, but then it came back, and like now it's just all super high attack fast heroes again. You got Dagon and Sybil that are like running lead on attack a lot of the time, so like it's just hard to like have a team with a squishy hero like Craw. It's just not going to survive unless you have some type of res. So I suppose if I were to bring Niveus or something like that, then it could work out. But I think at least at the end of the turn, we'll see if we get that stack of foresights. I'd like to check, and it looks like either this was one that we still had from last turn, but it looks like we did get a stack here. Looks like, I'm not sure. Maybe we didn't. I don't know. But I was hoping maybe because of maybe Serenity might have prevented it as well. I'm not really positive. They kind of like cancel each other out, maybe, I guess. But I do think we got it. I'm not. We're gonna hop right back into another one, and as you can see, if I can press on this before the damage starts, you can see we've got some foresight. We've got 3 stacks of foresight, which is phenomenal. Super cool to have. Maybe our Craw will survive a little bit longer this time. He's got some evasion runes on him, like probably got a little bit of defense if he stayed alive so far. What did he have? He had like 15,000 attacks, 7,000 defense, so not too much defense, so he's staying alive surprisingly well here. When he's able to attack, for the heck of it, we'll just do his epic attack just so that we can see what it looks like. Let's just hit somebody that will hit. So unfortunately, again, for whatever reason, I'm not getting the yet, which is very annoying. But that's just how BlueStacks is sometimes. There's some kind of fix for it sometimes. I have to reinstall the game, but I'm not going to worry about it too much, or you guys kind of all get the idea. It's just going to be a blast that shoots like some color. Is nothing too crazy about it. Let's see if turn we gain foresight again. We get it. I can't see if we got it or not. So honestly, I'm not really sure, but that is the idea. From what I understand, at the end of each turn, we are supposed to gain a stack of foresight, or maybe it's at the beginning of the next. So who knows? That might be why I did. But anyways, I'm gonna call this video to an end. I hope you guys enjoyed. Sorry for my lack of uploads lately. I am trying, I promise. Also, I got new camera, got an entirely new setup. I had to reinstall Windows from scratch. I got a new graphics card. I got all kinds of new stuff. So like, aside from also being busy, there was like a lot of work to like get everything set back up again. I had to like redo my entire room to actually get the lighting correct for the green screen and yada yada yada. But that said, I am going to be uploading hopefully more often as things kind of like wind down a little bit. I'm going to be streaming anytime I can. Make sure that you have notifications on. Catch my streams. Also, I ordered a bunch of merch, which will hopefully be here by next week, and I will show you all that. I'm very excited to show that to you guys. And until next time, I will catch you later.